Hello, Study Mums, and welcome to another episode of the Study Mums Pathways to Success podcast, the podcast helping mums achieve their study goals faster, easier, and with less stress. I'm your host, Susie Phillips, and you are joining me for episode 11. And today we are talking to Annemarie Sansom, who is from an organisation called Night Nannies. Welcome, Annemarie.
Thanks for having me, Susie.
Oh, you're welcome. And now, Night Nannies, there's a lot more to Night Nannies than I think people would initially think. It's not when mum and dad go to the movies and you need someone to look after the kids, is it? It's a lot more detailed than that.
We do provide that service as well, but it came from my place, came from my own personal story, which is with my first child. I'm actually a mum of 5 children. My background is early childhood education. And when I had my first child, you know, as there is with any parent, there's a lot of pressure, especially if you're actually already from a background in early childhood development. There's already more pressure on you to actually be successful and, you know, be the perfect mum. And so for me, when my baby was proving to be a really challenging sleeper, I really needed to come up with a different plan. And all the things that I'd learned over the years in my career were all about control crying, cried out. And at that time, 11 years ago, there was no other sort of thinking or thought process outside of that. And, of course, you had different places that you could go, government-funded hospitals and sleep clinics and things like that. But there was no one that would really come to you when you really needed it at 2 o'clock in the morning and you're pulling out your hair and exhausted. And if your partner or if you have a partner and they're working, they're not always able to get up and help you to have that support overnight when you really, really need it. So for me, I had an idea of what I wanted to do and what to do, but it was really just having that additional support and, you know, coach or person there with me to get me through those hard yards. And so Night Nannies was developed. I have a lot of colleagues and friends who are in the industry, nurses, paediatricians and early childhood educators, and we all sort of had to think about it. And we came across the Australian Infant Mental Health Association, and they actually had a position paper on gentle attachment attendance to children, and that really resonated with me as a parent. And so I actually investigated different options to help families in their home overnight to provide those types of services where we're either providing a coaching support service or we're providing gentle sleep settling techniques to parents who might need the additional support and education as well.
Wow, and that is a very invaluable service. I remember bringing my son home from the hospital and my husband actually had to work. So it was the first-time mum. And, yeah, it was it was a very daunting experience, and I wish I had known that Night Nannies had existed then. So
basically, lots of people actually.
Yeah, and this is why I wanted you here today, because I came across your website and I thought, wow, that's fantastic. And yeah, basically with mums, there's some mums who are studying and they, you know, whether it's their first child or it's their 4th child, if they don't know nannies existed like I didn't back then, you know. So what kind of services does Night Nannies actually provide?
So I was just going to continue on a little bit about that story as well, and I'll tell you about the services in that. So as I was mentioning, I've got 5 children, and 2 of my children happen to be twins. So that actually created a whole new area. You know, I thought, okay, I've got this child down pat. I know what I'm doing. I'm in my groove. I've got things figured out now. We've started Night Nannies. I've got a fabulous array of people around me who I can call upon at any time, but suddenly I'm thrown into the multiple birth world and it's like, wow, now I've got to do a whole lot of other thinking outside of that box. I mean, what does that look like? Who's going to support me with feeding, sleep? When do I get a break? You know, there's no break for me. It's like a production line. So that was another creation and development and growth of Night Nannies, that support service as well. And the services that we do offer, as I said before, you know, we offer the babysitting because, you know, parents do need to actually have a life and, you know, have time together to keep the relationship going. But also the main services that we specialise in are infant overnight care, where we'll come in and support you. So that could be that we're giving you a break overnight. We might be bringing your baby to you for feeds if that's what you want to do, or feeding baby overnight. And that could be a one-off just because you're exhausted and your partner might not be there. you might have a medical condition. We have a lot of families who have postnatal depression, who we'll give additional support to. Or our other services where we work with older babies, which we don't start our sleep services until babies are 5 months and older. And that's where we come in to work together with you as parents. We don't do it for you. We work together with you as a team to empower you, feel confident, and teach you all of our skill sets so that you can then know what to do and how to make the changes, the positive changes with your child's sleeping patterns.
Wow, that sounds fantastic.
So that's the main.
And I like that what you say, you know, if it's just a one-off, you can do it. It's not something you have to sign up for and do for a period of time. That's great.
Exactly. It could be just your partner's gone away, been called away for work, or you're really not feeling well and you're not coping, or your mother or mother-in-law might help you and they're not available or they become ill. And that's where we would really step in and help if that's what you wanted us to do. And again, as I say, it's a support role. It's not taking over. Some people have the misconception that when you have night nannies or night postnatal care nurses coming out to you, that they're going to just take over. For us as an organisation, it's very much about working together with the parents to empower them with confidence, feel that they have that trust, and also we're following through with their parenting philosophy. It's about what they want. We're an extension of them.
Okay, all right. And what areas do you cover with your?
So we're national, mostly metropolitan areas, but we do service some regional and outer regional areas. Okay. Sometimes we do go to rural areas, but usually that's an additional cost.
Okay. And so in regards to costing and stuff, how affordable is it for families to have your services? Yeah,
so unfortunately it's not subsidised by the government, and at the moment there's no private health fund. There used to be private health funds that would provide some postnatal care and education that you could claim back, and some top-level healthcare covers may still cover consultation for that. But unfortunately most don't. So affordability, comparable, one of the things that we've tried to do and I've tried to do as the owner is to keep fees down, because I want parents because I've been there and I really want parents who may not be able to afford it to be able to reach out if they want to. And, if they're told by their local sleep-funded organisation, government-funded organisation, that they've got an 8-week wait, and they're feeling really anxious and upset, that's really not good enough. So we want people to be able to afford it. So from our perspective, it depends on the service. So if you're looking at just some overnight support, someone to come in and just give you a full night's rest, and that can still be optional about feeding and all of your participation or non-participation, that's about $275 overnight currently. So it's not too bad, but again, not everybody would be able to afford that. Yeah. We also have a shortened consult, so for families that just need some education and care in relation to the routine and techniques, that's $200, and that's usually a 3-hour consult. And these are all face-to-face. That's something that I firmly believe in. There's a lot of people out there that only do online consultations. And, they're valuable if you can't actually get that person into your home. You still need, I feel, and my consultants feel the same way, that you still really need to see what that child's doing and how they're responding to the techniques that you're implementing, how they're responding to you. And that might change throughout the night. You might have the early part of the night where they're very tired and they're quite responsive because they're less resistant, and the latter part of the night where they've had a little nap and they've re-energized, and then they're more resistant and they're going to cry and feel really upset and angry that you're making these changes. And they're the times that you really need to individualise it and see actually what the child is doing so that you can adjust it appropriately. And it's really not effective to expect the child to respond to that one technique throughout the whole entire night without any adaptation to that technique.
Right. So does that mean that you don't have that option? Like if people can't get face-to-face? Just so we know.
Look. Last year, Google actually headhunted us to do online consultations, and we did do that through their Help Outs program, which was a trial program they were running for about 6 months.
Right.
And we still do it occasionally, but it's not a service that we're actively promoting just because, maybe I'm a bit old school, but I just feel like it's really valuable to see how mum's coping, how dad's coping, how anyone in the family is coping, and also how the children are responding, so that I can actually individualize that and actually look at the child's sensitivity. As adults, we're all different with our personalities and sensitivity.
Yeah.
Responding to that, their emotional well-being and how your child's temperament is really important, so that you aren't going to create problems.
Yeah.
So in that respect, I guess I'm a bit old school.
No, I love that. That's that's just true connectedness. And you're right, there are a lot of variables there, and you can't tell that over the telephone or on a computer. So that's a definite plus in my books. So apart from just having a newborn or an infant, and night feeding and, that usual, got to wake up regardless 2-3 times a night, what kind of other sleep issues are there? Just a little bit of a spectrum of what kind of things, issues that you can deal with.
Yeah. So common issues that we come across are suck to sleep. Associations are what I would call them. They're the main issues that you would find. And associations can be positive or negative. It depends on when they're used, how long they're used for, and what they're used for. So, for example, a suck to sleep association can be a really positive thing in the early weeks and months as you're breastfeeding or feeding baby to sleep. And that's really what you would be encouraging to do. But they get to a point around the 5 to 6 month mark, sometimes a little bit earlier, where they'll suddenly have an awareness and a developmental change, and suddenly that suck to sleep association, you might remember yourself when they're falling asleep on the breast or bottle, and it's really easy. We just pop them down and they're asleep. Suddenly, around between the 4 to 6 month mark, they have a bit of a change, and they're like, yeah, I'm awake. I'm actually re-energized, and I'm not going to sleep, and it's 2 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
That's where you're like, no, this ain't going to happen. I need some sleep too. And so that association is when you'd really want to start looking at what's happening with their nutrition and their feeding, and are they using it as what I would call snack packing, where they're actually genuinely hungry or they're not. When they wake up first thing in the morning, are they actually really hungry? Are they breaking the fast? Are they really hungry? Or are they rejecting breakfast and whatever the first feed of the day is? These are all key telltale signs that baby might be ready to start moving off night feeds. And of course, in consultation with your GP and maternal health child nurse in regards to their weight and development and things are really important in that as well.
Right.
That's one. There's also, when we talk about the sleep environment, so, we work with families who might be, bed sharing or co-sleeping, as well as children who are in their own room. And we work with all those families. We don't say, oh, you cannot no longer bed share or you cannot co-sleep. We just talk about what is safe sleeping.
Right.
What are the recommendations through SIDS Australia.
Yeah.
But we do help them with the nutrition side of things and the techniques and how baby or child is getting ready to go to sleep, and what happens when you attend to them overnight. So an example I give families when they ring up is, and this is reflective of all children, but especially toddlers and preschoolers, because we have a baby program and a toddler preschooler program, is if you were teaching your child to ride their bike for the first time, you might have training wheels. You would actually be present with them. You would not be running around the corner and leaving them for 5 or 10 minutes or whatever. You'd actually stay with them. You might hold the bike, walk with them, building their confidence and reassuring them about the safety and what's happening and how they're growing and doing such a great job learning to ride their bike. And then the training wheels might come off and you'd still be holding them and you'd be running next to them saying how great a job they're doing. And then you might let them have a little go by themselves. But again, you would not have run around the corner to hide while they're giving that bike a go.
That's right.
You actually be there with them.
Yeah.
To say, oh, okay, good, great job, you're balancing really well. Oh, you fell off, oh no, and give them a big cuddle and and then you might have to wait another day or another week before they've got the confidence enough to get back on. Right. But you would be then encouraging them to get back on and try it again with your support and encouragement. And that's exactly what we do. It's the same thing, but move that scenario into the sleep environment. And that's what we would be doing, is helping baby or child to learn a new skill with you. So we're sharing that knowledge with you and individualizing it so that you can then help your baby to get into that sleep pattern using gentle settling techniques. And when I say gentle settling techniques, it's really, there's so many different techniques that you can use. I mean, you can have patting. I mean, most parents will have tried all of these different things. So patting, resting your hand, just gently rubbing their forehead, using a shush or a keyword, or sleep time, singing a song. I mean, have you tried all of those different things?
Yes, most definitely.
What I find is that it's really about different pieces of the puzzle coming together. So what am I doing in the day? What's happening with sleeps in the day? Are they having solids, or are they ready to start solids? How much milk are they having at night? Where are they sleeping? All these things, like are we warm enough? Are we ill? Do we feel safe, secure? All of these different things that join the puzzle together so that you actually join the puzzle and look at their development as well, because when children have key milestones in their development, they also go through heightened separation anxiety stages. So that's another area that you'll find when children might get off track with sleeping. For example, 6 months, 9 months, 12 months, 18 months. I mean, what typically happens at 12 months? Parents, if they're lucky, might be having a 12-month maternity leave break. Right. They'll go back to work, and at that 12-month time, which also coincides with their heightened separation anxiety stage, we're then putting our children into childcare, typically, so we can go back to work. But unfortunately, it's right at that time developmentally when they're going to have another heightened developmental stage of separation anxiety. So it's going to exacerbate all those things in the change and drop off and all that sort of thing, but also at night time as well with the sleeping patterns.
Right. And that's actually a really mindful thing there, because, we learn these techniques and we get something to work. We just expect it to work. And then we get very upset, I think, as parents when it doesn't. It
can work forever.
It starts to go backwards, and you think, oh, what have I done wrong, Or that technique didn't work, sort of thing.
Yeah. But it's like anything. You feel like you've got on top of, with your development of, I know what my baby's routine is, I know what they're doing, and then suddenly a week later you've got on top of it and they change, and you're like, what? I thought I was on top of it.
Yeah.
And that's really what it is. It's just about adapting and changing and growing as they grow.
Okay, I did have one question that I really wanted to ask you today is, and it comes from my time when my son first came home from the hospital. What they called silent reflux, that he had silent reflux. And I could not put him down into a cot or a bed or anything. And I swear for about 3 months I slept with him in a chair. Now, having done that, my question to you is, he is 4, nearly 5, and he is still a terrible sleeper. Now, I'm wondering, in those early stages of that not self-settling, and, we have done other things and it did work for a little while, but how important is that early stage? And now he is a preschooler, he goes to kindy, but he just doesn't like sleeping. He still wakes up 2 or 3 times a night, and he's nearly 5.
Yeah. Look, don't beat yourself up about it. I work in the field. This is my business, and I've also got a reflux baby who is now 5, and he likes to come and cuddle in bed. That's his thing. And the reality is, for me, we've sort of made a decision as a family that he sleeps really well in our bed. And I'm not going to advocate that, especially for younger children, but for us as a family, that works. He comes in, and we could either do a different variety of different tactics, which would be, we might have a mattress on the side of the bed, on the floor, and say, this is your sleeping place when you come in, so that you don't disturb us at night, or I keep getting up and down and reinforcing that he has to go back to bed in his own bed. But we've just found that he's a sensitive little guy. Yeah. He's got different things going on for him.
It sounds very similar.
For us, and as I say, I've got 5 children. I've had, my 18-year-old was a fantastic sleeper. 13-year-old, not so much, but he sleeps in his own bed now. Yay! And the thing is, when we look at the twins, I'm like, this is a perfect example. It's not just me. I'm not the bad guy, because I've got, twins, obviously, and one is an amazing sleeper, fantastic, sleeps in her own bed from beginning to end. No problem. She both had the same parents, same environment, same philosophies, but she's amazing with her sleep. Whereas my little guy, he's, more sensitive, and he just needs that additional support. Don't know for how long for, but we're not going to push him. But that's just us, and that's my parenting philosophy. But back to your question about reflux, we do support parents with who have reflux babies all the time. A lot of silent reflux babies, because and babies that are also projectile vomiting as well. But the silent reflux ones are really difficult because obviously it takes a lot to get a diagnosis because you don't always know what's going on initially. It can just be small signs in the early days, and then, you know, once you've got a diagnosis, it can be easier to manage with medication and support and things like that. But at the end of the day, sometimes it's just about them growing out of it or adjusting. You know, I don't know if they always all grow out of it anyway. It can just be an adjustment as their systems develop and grow. That, you know, they're able to manage it better. But certain foods might trigger them off later anyway. But you know, in regards to that, we still offer parents support, whether it be respite, giving them a break overnight, but with the sleep guidance. I always say to parents, if your child is ill, or, you know, it's just like you and I, if we're ill or we have a pain or recurring pain, you can't change that unless that condition is managed or goes away. So there's no techniques aside from the things that you would know as a reflux parent, you know, with elevating the cot and things like that to, you know, to get the cot upright, to help holding upright for 20 minutes after a feed and feeding upright in those positional changes, supporting that situation. But there's nothing you can do as a technique because it's not behavioural. It's a medical condition. When people come to work with you to work on the sleeping issues, it's all about the behavioural changes. How do I learn this new skill? How do I change the sleeping environment? All of those things are behavioural and learned things that we would do. Some of us naturally pick them up really quickly and know them. Other times we need a little bit more help to get there. With a reflux baby like your baby, it's really something that a condition that you can't change until the medical condition goes away.
And I think having a night nanny there at that time, because I remember a lot of times it sort of would go through my head, especially when it dragged on, you know, like for months and months. And I was like, well, is it still there, or is this just a habit now? Does he just cry every time I put him down because he's so used to sleeping on me? So it was kind of one of those things. So I to have someone there at that time to kind of go, okay, well, you know, we could try this. And if it is a behavioural thing now, or whether it's that would have been priceless.
Yeah, and that might be what I would call a residual effect. So if the condition is managed and he's no longer in pain anymore, or he's outgrown the symptoms or the condition, then you would look, okay, like you said, has he picked up these behaviours because this is how we've been dealing with it? We've been holding him upright, he's been sleeping on my chest, or all of those things. And yes, that's something that we would do and come in as well, obviously in consideration with what your GP says too, to make those changes with you, or to at least assess what is happening. You know, is it behaviour, or are they still showing signs of pain? We obviously can't diagnose those things, the GP can, but we can definitely look and identify some of the recognisable symptoms and see the differences. And then we might say to you, okay, look, just go and get that checked out by the GP once and for all to make sure. And then if the GP gives you the all clear, we'll come in and work on the behavioural patterns.
Okay, great. And I know you're a very busy woman today, so I won't keep you for much longer. I could keep you here all day and ask you questions about children and sleep. Basically, just fast forwarding a little bit and going to a study mum scenario where some mums can only study or do any work, I know for myself, at night time. So that bed routine is really quite important to, you know, obviously the clock's ticking. You've only got so much energy in the day to be studying, so you don't want to be up till 1 a.m, 2 a.m. because the kids didn't go to bed until 8 or 9 o'clock or to sleep. Do you have any tips for maybe some study mums, like to get that routine so that they can have those kids in bed and they're settled? And I know, and obviously there's going to be times when that's not going to happen. Do you have any advice for a situation like that?
Yep. So first of all would be to, one, do what you feel comfortable with. If you get off track sometimes, don't beat yourself up. Everybody does. And then I guess work out what type of parent you are and what type of, what are your needs and what are you prepared to do? Because for some parents, they're sort of like relaxed and like, oh, well, we'll just let them do whatever. For others, they really want that really strict regimented routine. Routine is a really good positive thing because it helps with consistency. It helps to know what expectation is, what your expectation is, what the children's expectation and boundaries are, and it's something that they get into the rhythm, into the groove of what they're doing. So those things, if you do have that consistent approach with, what I would class as you're going through your environmental checklist. So that is, we have a routine. So we might have bath, teeth, moving into the sleeping environment with a story, cuddles, and then into bed, or preferably, and again, the ages we're talking about are quite varied. We're talking about babies all the way through to, potentially 5 years of age. But if you can actually have them in the bed for the story, that sort of thing, to start encouraging them and familiarising with that environment, that is a better option because you remove a step. But also ensuring that you actually spend time in the day outside of the nighttime routine in the room as well, outside of sleep times. A lot of people, when they're trying to make change to sleep patterns, forget that they need to spend time in there as well, outside of sleeping patterns, because it becomes this negative place where children, they hit the room, they're like, oh, I don't want to go in there because it means I have to go to sleep and you're going to leave me.
And the lights go out too and it looks completely different.
Lights, exactly.
Well. Yeah.
So things that I'd recommend in the environmental checklist are having that, repetitive routine, bath, teeth, story, those types of things. Setting up procrastination tools prior. So if you've got a procrastinating toddler or preschooler, making sure that you've eliminated all those things. We've done toilet, we've got the 5 teddies in the bed, we've done 3 stories, making sure we say, okay, choose your 2 or 3 stories, because that's what, you're putting a limit on what they can do, but they're still getting a choice. You're spending time in a happy playtime in the day outside of the bedtime routine as well, so that they can get used to the room and know it's a positive place, it's not a negative place. Things like a nightlight. Years ago we used to just recommend general night lights, but there's been a lot more study and research now on things like blue lights from computer screens and phones and things like that. So it's best to try and have a light that has an orange hue, sort of campfire type light. Lots of different options out there. I mean, there's a simple one at a large department store that's about $20 and it has an orange hue, and it also is rechargeable. You can take it off and it becomes a spotlight as well. It's amazing. But there's also lots of different other, salt rock ones and things like that. But you just got to choose what you feel comfortable with and what works for you.
And how do you feel about sounds? Like,
yes,
yeah.
So I was going to say sounds. I'm with Night Nannies. We do recommend in regards to day and night too, that you actually do make the room quite dark, but still having a night light, as I was saying, but a dim night light. So it's not very wakeful, but it actually still gives that orange sort of sleepy hue, but enough so that they feel safe.
Right.
With sounds, definitely having sounds is really good. With their infant newborns, white noise, womb noise, those types of things are really helpful. As they progress developmentally, having sounds like relaxation sounds and classical music, things like that are sort of repetitive but not wakeful. Some music is known to be wakeful, even the relaxation types. So having that sort of relaxation music, but not turning it off. So because with children, they will go into a sleep cycle which can last anywhere from 20 to 60 minutes. Typically, it's around 20 to 45 minutes, which is why you hear parents complain of, my baby wakes up every 20 minutes or my baby wakes up every 45 minutes, especially with cat nappers in the day. So if you turn it off, and as they start to come into that lighter sleep cycle, they're going to be like, oh, hang on, where's the boob? Where's the bottle? Where's the music?
Right.
Why has everything changed? It's kind of like if you went to sleep here and then I moved you outside and you woke up and went, oh, hang on, I was asleep. That's going to freak you out. Yeah. So being mindful of those things. And think about, as an adult, what are the things that help you relax? Is it a bath? Is it a massage? Is it calming music? All those things that help you relax are most likely going to be the things that help your little one relax and feel calm.
So it certainly isn't someone plopping me into bed and switching out the light and saying, it's bedtime, go to sleep.
Exactly.
I don't think that would work for me. All right.
That's right.
Now,
that's okay.
So do you do daytimes as well? Is there
so we
nannies as well as nighttime?
So as the business grew, we obviously, had parents asking us about day support and things as well. Our night consultation services also cover the day, so we don't go, oh, we're only going to come and look at the night. We have to look at the day routine as well anyway. We can do that from the assessments that we do prior to coming in and then when we come in as well. Otherwise, we can just come in and do day consulting, which might be just about the cat napper that we mentioned before. And also we do day casual support services. So if you're, you just want to get to the gym, or, you just need to have a rest and a lie down, or have a shower, we would come in and support you and give you that support there, or a break if you need it in the day as well.
Oh, that's fantastic. And so we can find you at nightnannies.com.au.
Yeah.
And study mums can go and check that out and see what services you have and what areas you cover.
Yes, and give us a call anytime or email, and we're more than happy to offer some support as well, just generally for anyone that sees this program.
Right, and we have show notes basically with every podcast that we do on the Study Mum blog, so I'll make sure I put all those details in there so that the mums can find them easy. Thanks so much for your time today, Annemarie, and maybe we can have you on the show again with a specific problem once the mums start hearing about you and listening to this particular podcast. You're very knowledgeable in what you're doing.
Thanks. Would love to help anyone that needs it. So thanks for having me on.
You're welcome. Take care.
Thanks.